Goblin launch detected.
This video is sponsored by Cool Stuff Inc. If you're looking for cards in the US, look no further as you can use the promo code MTGMudsta to get you 5% off anything on the site. Or if you're in Canada like me, you can use the same promo code at Multizone to get 10% off your orders of singles. If cards aren't what you're looking for, Original Magic Art has playmats, tokens, and sweet art that you can use that same promo code to help you get 5% off your order there. And if you just want to help out the channel, you can always consider becoming a patron for as little as $1 a month and join the generic Goblin Gang. Hey gang, and welcome back. Today's game finds us back at Kessel Run Games, and Dylan has brought his Mikaeus the Lunarch deck, keeping a land tax, Captain of the Watch, 2 plains, Archetype of Courage, and an Einok Bond Kin. Drew has returned with her Tiamat deck, keeping Genesis Ultimatum, Path of Ancestry, Forest, Heroic Intervention, Savage Ventmaw, Gruul Turf, and a Frontier Bivouac. Dom is rocking Xyris again, keeping a Fauna Shaman, Prosperous Innkeeper, Kazul Tyrant of Cliffs, 3 Visits, Island, and a Forest. I know I said I was going to get rid of the Kolvori deck, but I filmed this before that decision, and I keep the Ozolith, Oran Reef the Vastwood, Mirren the Moaning Well, each Tech Salvage Splicer, Forest, Varus Silvery Moon Ranger, and an Abundance. Dylan wins a die roll and starts us off. He draws, plays a Plains, and drops that turn 1 land tax. Drew draws and plays a tapped Frontier Bivouac. Dom plays a Forest and passes. I play a tapped Oran Reef, passing back to Dylan. Dylan plays a Plains and casts Mikaeus, putting 1 into the X. Drew plays a Forest and pays 2 for Gruul Signet. Dom draws, plays an Island, and casts 3 Visits, going to find another Forest. I draw and play a Forest. Dylan plays an Einok Bond Kin in his main phase, and then activates Mikaeus to add another counter to himself. After that, he passes to Drew. Drew draws and casts a Chromatic Lantern, and then plays a Gruul Turf, bouncing a Forest back to her hand. She passes turn after that. Dom draws and plays a Mountain. He casts a Prosperous Innkeeper, making a treasure as it comes in. He follows up with a Fauna Shaman, gaining 1 from the Innkeeper. I draw and play a Blighted Woodland. I then cast Finn the Fangbearer, passing back to Dylan. Dylan gets to go and find some lands off his land tax, putting 2 plains to hand and drawing for turn. He then plays a Plains and casts Archetype of Courage, before tapping Mikaeus once more to add another counter to him. Drew draws and plays a Forest. She has enough mana at this point for a Savage Ventmaw and passes to Dom. Dom draws and plays an Island. He then casts his commander Xyris, gaining 1 from the Innkeeper and passing to me. My turn has a Forest coming in, and I cast Abundance. Dylan gets a Plains off of land tax, and then draws and casts Kindred Boon, naming Angel as it comes in, and passes turn. Drew plays a Swamp, and then casts Lay of the Lands to go and find a Plains. After that, she moves to combat, swinging the Ventmaw at Dylan for 4. Dylan takes the hit, and she then uses the mana from the Ventmaw, plus the rest of her lands to help cast Tiamat. She goes into her library and conservatively grabs only Dragonlord Silumgar and Lathliss to put to hand before passing turn. Dom draws and plays a Forest. He pays 7 to cast Old Gnawbone, gaining 1 as it enters, and moves to combat. He swings Xyris at Dylan for 3, and he takes the hit, so they both draw 3 cards. Dom also makes 3 treasures from Gnawbone, and gains 3 life from the Innkeeper as he makes 3 snakes. After that, he passes to me. I choose land off of Abundance and reveal until I hit a Forest. I draw it, and then play it, and cast Kolvori, and then activate Oran Reef to put a +1/+1 counter onto her once she resolves. Dylan has a Plains for turn, and casts a Herald of War, and then takes a counter off Mikaeus to put a +1/+1 counter onto his entire team. After that, he moves to discard and passes. Drew draws and plays a tap Path of Ancestry. She then casts Lathliss, and Dom responds by countering it with a counterspell. After that, Drew moves to combat and swings Tiamat at Dom for 7. He takes the hit, and after that, she passes to Dom. Dom draws and activates Fauna Shaman in his main phase, ditching Kazul to go and search for Essex. He then plays a command tower and casts the creature he found. He moves to combat and swings Xyris at me and Old Gnawbone at Dylan. I take the 3, but Dylan chums Gnawbone with the Herald of War. Dom and I then draw 3, and he makes 3 snakes, which come in as copies of Savage Ventmaw thanks to Xyris. He also gains 3 life, and makes 3 treasures because of Old Gnawbone. After that, Dom passes turn. I draw and play a forest. I then cast the Ozolith and Blackblade Reforged, and move to equip the blade to Kolvori, and then pass to Dylan. Dylan has a Plains for turn, and casts Secret Rendezvous, targeting Drew, and they each draw 3. This triggers Dom's Xyris, and he uses Essex's trigger to make 6 more Savage Ventmaws instead, and also gains 6 life thanks to the Innkeeper seeing them come in. Dylan then passes, and during his end step, Dom casts Prismari Command to destroy the Chromatic Lantern, and draw 2, and then discard 2. Drew has a Plains for turn, and decides to cast Crux of Fate, naming dragons. Dylan casts Call of the Coppercoats, choosing Dom, and makes 17 soldier tokens. Once that's done, Drew then moves to discard and passes to Dom. Dom draws and plays a mountain. He then casts a Skull Clamp and clamps a snake to draw 2. He does it again before moving to combat, and swings Xyris at me and Essex at Dylan. We each take our hits, and Dom and I each draw 3. I choose non-land on Abundance, and get Green Omnath, and then Colony Ambush and Circuitous Root. Dom chooses a Prosperous Innkeeper with Essex, so he can make 3 more copies of it, and gains 6 life as they come in, and makes 3 treasure tokens. In his post-combat main phase, Dom then casts Artifact Mutation on Ozolith, and blows it up to make a Saproling token, and then follows up with a Dictate of Crufix and passes to me. On my upkeep, I cast Colony Ambush to make Kolvori fight Xyris. Dom responds by Pongifying Kolvori, and Drew responds by negating that. However, Dom is ready with a Rapid Hybridization as well, and my commander gets destroyed. I then draw 2, making Dom another Prosperous Innkeeper thanks to his little combo, and play an Arcane Lighthouse. I then cast Circuitous Roots and go to find 2 lands. Moving to combat, I swing Finn at Dom, who chumps with a Saproling token, and I pass turn. Dylan gets some lands off his land tax trigger, and then draws 2, making Dom another Innkeeper token thanks to his little combo. Dylan then casts a Captain of the Watch, making 3 more soldier tokens, and then takes a counter off Mikaeus to pump the team again, and moves to combat. He swings 17 now 3/3 soldier tokens at Dom, and Dom chumps 4 of them but still takes 39 damage. After that, Dylan passes to Drew. Drew draws 2, and Dom makes another Innkeeper, gaining some life. She then plays a Temple of the Dragon Queen, revealing the Dragonlord Silumgar in hand, and chooses blue. And casts the Dragonlord Silumgar, stealing Xyris as it enters. After that, she passes, and Dom casts Signal the Clans at the end step. He goes into his library revealing Adrix and Nev, Sakashima of 1,000 Faces, and Brutaclad. He rolls to see what he gets, hitting Adrix and Nev from it, and then goes to take his turn. Dom draws 2, and Drew makes a snake token from Xyris. He then plays a Rejuvenating Springs and activates the Fauna Shaman, pitching Adrix and Nev to go and get Coma and cast it, gaining 6 life from the Innkeepers. He follows up with an Arcane Signet, and then clamps an Innkeeper to draw 2, making Drew 2 more snake tokens. After that, he passes. On my upkeep, Dom makes a Serpent token that becomes a copy of Xyris thanks to Essex, and I draw 2, making both Dom and Drew a snake token. I then cast Omnath, and pass. Dom makes a Serpent on Dylan's upkeep, and him and Drew make some snake tokens from drawing 2. Dylan then casts Deploy the Front to make 46 soldier tokens, and then taps Mikaeus to pump his team yet again. Moving to combat, he swings 20 4/4 soldiers at Dom this time, who blocks 7 and still takes 52 damage. After that, Dylan passes. Dom makes another coil token on Drew's upkeep and a snake from her drawing 2. She then casts Genesis Ultimatum, and looking at her top 5, puts to field a Rhythm of the Wild, Burnished Heart, and Evolving Wilds. She then cracks the Evolving Wilds for a mountain and moves to combat. She swings Dragonlord Silumgar at Dom and Xyris at Dylan. They each take the hit, and Dylan and Drew each draw 3 cards. This has Drew making 3 more snake tokens, and she then moves to discard down to 7. Dom gets a token from Koma on his upkeep and draws 2, making Drew another snake token. He casts Jessica's Will to make 10 red mana, and then casts Court of Calling where X is 6. He goes into his library to get Brutaclad and gains some life as it enters. He then follows up with Triumph of the Hordes. Dylan responds by casting Swords to Plowshares and targets Brutaclad, which has Dom gaining 4 as it gets exiled. Moving to combat, he swings Xyris, Essex, Koma, and 2 coils at Dylan. Dylan throws 20 soldiers on each of the ground blockers, but still takes 9 poison from the flyers. Dom then sacrifices one of the coils to save Koma, and both Dom and Dylan draw 3 cards from the Xyris copy hitting, making Dom and Drew 4 more snake tokens. After that, he passes, and I float 6 green mana onto Omnath during his end step. I draw my 2, and give Drew and Dom another snake. However, with no way of really dealing with anything at this point, I just passed a turn. Dylan draws his 2 and casts a Basri Lieutenant. He then pumps the team with Mikaeus again and moves to combat. He swings 20 soldiers at Drew and the rest at Dom and I, with Dom and I dying because of damage. Drew casts Heroic Intervention and blocks their snake tokens to stave off most of the damage, but still takes 8. After that, Dylan casts Thran Dynamo and passes turn. Drew draws and casts the only board wipe she can with the Chain Reaction, but with the Basri Lieutenant dying, its ability will trigger and refill Dylan's board. This has him coming back with a nice 69/2/2 staring her down, and she knows she's done for and scoops it up. Game review time. So this was a bit of a non-game for me since I really don't like the deck. I think if I'd wanted to build mono green legendaries, I would have been better suited with Reki in the command zone since it's card draw, and it would basically do the same thing, plus I could put Kolvori in the deck if I was so set on it. That Prosperous Innkeeper did a ton of work for Dominic in his Xyris deck. The fact that it also makes a treasure as it comes in is pretty sweet, and I'm actually wondering about putting it into Tristani to make into token copies so I get treasures and gain more and more life. That could be kind of fun. I had literally 0 expectations for Dylan's Mikaeus deck since he undersold it when we were playing it, but considering the only board wipe that was played was a Crux of Fate, which Drew did have to name dragons for to stop Dominic from winning with, he was able to amass a huge board of soldiers and human tokens. I'd never even seen the card called the Coppercoats until today, but it seemed like it was a great choice in his deck. I think unfortunately for Drew, Tiamat is very color hungry, and losing that Chromatic Lantern so early on really set her back. She wasn't able to cast any of her blue dragons really until later in the game, and by that point things were really out of her reach. That being said, I think if Dylan hadn't drawn that Basri Lieutenant, that Chain Reaction might have pushed the game in her favor, so it's hard to say. This video wouldn't be possible without the help from my sponsors, Cool Stuff Inc., Multizone, Original Magic Art, and Alter Sleeves. But it definitely wouldn't be possible without the help from you, the viewers, and my patrons. So I just want to say thank you for watching, and to remember, friends are just opponents you haven't eliminated yet.